Chapter 131. As Alex retracted the enhancements from his earlier experiments, he delayed his journey to the deep-sea realm, not just to marvel at the oceanic abyss, but to investigate the strange code behind Devil Fruit ability. Facing a group of uneasy test subjects warriors once called Supernovas, Alex's calm grin failed to ease their dread, so he invoked the unlimited void, silencing their minds like flipping a switch. He stepped toward the largest among them, who quickly shifted from rebel to sycophant, offering loyalty in exchange for mercy. With surgical focus, Alex began his work dissecting the stranger's altered biology, extracting the mysterious karma-based power, and isolating its link to the world's deeper code. In that moment, he confirmed it. Devil Fruits didn't just mutate bodies, they rewrote identity itself, bonding user and universe through quantum glyphs. With a few deft tweaks, he restructured the man's DNA and embedded a sliver of his own pocket dimension, granting him a taste of limitless potential. Then, with a voice as steady as the void, Alex asked the only question that mattered: how are you feeling now? Uruj flexed his limbs, a wild grin spreading as he sensed his newfound spatial / nearly indestructible, buzzing with unstable power. Temptation surged. He slashed at Alex, only to see the attack vanish against an invisible wall. Alex's infinity didn't flinch. Uruj's forced grin cracked. My hand slipped, Lord Alex? Alex simply nodded. Sure. In the next blink, Uruj was erased to atomize by countless unseen edges. Without a pause, Alex turned to his next subject. Basil Hawkins was forced to eat the Karma fruit, inflating grotesquely before bursting apart. In that brief moment, Alex decoded why dual fruit consumption fails. Energy overload caused by clashing DNA. It was a management issue solvable. Capone Bege tried bargaining. Alex flattened him in an instant. No room for negotiations. X-Drake and Apu offered loyalty. He didn't even glance. Their bodies disassembled mid-fusion test. Kid and Killer fought with pride. Alex admired it briefly then, separated their powers and sent them into the void. Only Bonnie and Law remained. Shaken but compliant, they accepted the expert. Runes weren't just symbols, they were the original source code of life, surpassing even DNA in complexity. After sealing Bonnie and Law in the Pocket Universe for future study, Alex stepped out into a dimmed world. The Eternal Flame's brilliance now absent. But below the waves, a soft glow rose the Sunlight Tree Eve, a living conduit of light and air, stretching through the ocean like a cosmic root system. Alex's gaze lingered. Beautiful, I'll take it. As the Straw Hats sailed deeper, their voyage collided with chaos. A colossal kraken, with no 2-year training behind them, panic erupted. Chopper screamed. Usopp despaired. Even Frankie's spotlight couldn't pierce the terror. But Alex, calm as ever, smirked. Ugly octopus. Maybe I'll keep it. Relief hit the crew like a wave. Teacups clanked as they prepared for a show, but Alex had another twist, opened a portal and summoned Bonnie instead. The instant Bonnie snapped back to awareness, she was already aboard the ship, a devilish whisper slithering into her ear. Erase that octopus. Thinking it was just some sea creature, she sighed in relief, until she turned and locked eyes with a titan of the deep, a kraken, pulsing with abyssal menace. Her knees buckled in land, she might have stood a chance. But out here, her abilities felt like static in a storm. Panic surged, but Alex was ice. Her desperate look bounced off him like light off obsidian. Sanji clenched his fists, seething at the silent command that hurled her into danger but dared not act. Alex, untouched by charm, had optimized hair-removed her seawater weakness, engraved devil fruit runes, and kicked her into the sea like launching a living weapon. At first, Bonnie flailed in fear, then blinked in disbelief as power bloomed inside her. Glint, glint, and ice flowed through her like twin rivers of lightning and frost. Staring down the monster, she smirked. Ever been neutralized at light speed? One flash, one scream of displaced water, and the sea turned crimson. Later, the crew feasted on grilled kraken under the open sky, smoky firelight flickering on their faces. Nami, licking sauce off her fingers, shot a curious glance at Bonnie now made with just a glance at Aokiji and Kizaru's abilities, I cracked the code and can now recreate similar powers at will no sweat. Join me, and that's just one of the freebies, I told them. Everyone except Luffy and Chopper froze, second-guessing their wild ambitions. Who needs danger when you can coast on power? Bonnie handled threats with icy precision, and I barely had to lift a hand. At 8,000 meters below, we ran into glowing poison jellies deadly, but gorgeous so naturally, I scooped them up for my pocket universe. Then, with a glacier of her own making, Bonnie paved our way straight to Fishman Island. The Sunlight Tree Eve wrapped its roots around glowing bubbles, bringing light and breath into the abyss. But the moment we got close, giants of the deep beasts, shaped like jungle kings, rose from the shadows. The crew died. They crossed the line with Alex. There was no walking away from that. Without hesitation, Alex launched a swift kick at Bonnie, sending her flying with a smirk. "Go get him, Bonnie Beast!" Bruised and burning with frustration, Bonnie wiped her tears and swallowed her pride, redirecting her fury toward the sneering fishmen. She turned, composed, her voice sweet yet electric. "Dear Lord Alex, how should I handle them?" Alex didn't blink. "Too ugly, just grind them into paste." "Understood!" Bonnie roared back, fire surging through her veins. The new Fishman pirates blinked in disbelief. How? Was she still alive down here? In their arrogance, they laughed. "That woman? Against us? Don't make us laugh!" They mocked Alex, too blind to see the storm coiling. "You're out of your depth, literally." But behind them, Chopper and Usopp flung words like chakra-tipped kunai. And suddenly, the proud fishmen were reeling from verbal strikes, humiliated by the legendary tongue of God Usopp. Snarling, they snapped, "You'll all be erased." Yet Alex, weary of their noise, barely raised an eyebrow. Enough time, wasting finished them. Still grinning, the yellow-scaled Hammond charged. "Landwalkers can't survive in our sea." But they were about to learn. In this current, Alex was the tide. With guidance from those who knew the deeper layers of Fishman Island, Alex absorbed the forgotten culture and breathtaking beauty hidden beneath the waves, imprinting each moment into his core like engraved memories. But his exploration came to a halt when a towering shadow loomed over him, a Fishman, massive and fierce, adorned in a pink cap and white wolf pelt, his left arm etched in jagged ink, his fury barely contained. "Where's Hammond? What did you do to him?" he demanded. Alex knew this face, Hody Jones, the zealot whose hatred was carved from childhood scars and the loss of Fisher Tiger. Hody, once destined to ignite war and fail, now faced Alex too soon. With a smirk, Alex replied, "Hammond? Of course I erased him. What, keep him as a souvenir?" That truth, sharp as steel, sent Hody into a rage. Water gathered from the air around him, reshaped by his will into arrows sharp enough to cleave iron. "Be gone, human!" he roared. But as the projectiles closed in, they halted suspended, frozen mid-flight by the infinity, trembling as if the laws of the world rejected them. Allies rallied behind Hody, their fury boiling, but it was clear, the rules of reality had shifted, and Alex now edited them. Hody's snarl deepened. "Comrades, this being nullified, Hammond without remorse." As the sun-drenched coral towers of Fishman Island gleamed like undersea jewels, Alex walked its winding paths, absorbing every code-layered echo of its culture and beauty, engraving each sensation deep within his core as living memory. But serenity shattered as a shadow blocked his way, a hulking fishman cloaked in wolf pelt and fury, eyes burning with accusation. "Where's Hammond? What did you do to him?" he snarled. Alex's calm response cut through the tension like a blade. "Of course, I erased him. What else invite him to dinner?" The name Hody Jones echoed through Alex's system, an extremist shaped by tragedy, twisted by vengeance, and once destined to incite chaos. With a roar, Hody conjured piercing water arrows from the very ocean's breath, hurling them with deadly force. But they never reached. Infinity shimmered and froze them in midair, each one trembling against the barrier of Alex's will. More shadows gathered, fishmen bristling with hate, but Alex stood unmoved, a sovereign amid storm. Hody's rage only deepened as he turned to his crew, declaring the human before them had brutally erased their comrade. The scene was set logic and fury, evolution and stagnation, staring each other down in the deep. With the shimmer of insight from the hollow root, Alex Locke unraveled the hidden layers of Fishman Island, absorbing its culture like coded memories etched into his core. But his exploration was cut short when a shadow loomed large, a crimson-eyed fishman clad in a wolf pelt, snarling with fury. It was Hody, a zealot twisted by ancient pain, demanding the fate of his fallen comrade. With a wry grin, Alex confirmed what Hody already suspected, triggering a storm of watery projectiles. But the moment they neared, the infinity field snapped into place, each arrow suspended mid-air, trembling like glass caught in time. Reinforcements surged forward, rage in their veins, yet Alex stood calm, an anchor in the chaos. Hody's voice thundered, rallying his kin to avenge the erased Hammond. But the balance had already shifted. This was no longer a simple clash, but a turning point in a dimensional script only Alex could edit. We'll rewrite fate itself. Take the ES capsule, unleash its power. Dethrone Neptune, seize control of the deep realm, and then we'll confront the surface world. Dosun, wielding a hammer shaped like Twin Ram's horns, snarled, "For our brother's code, recalibration against the surface dwellers." The others echoed the call, eyes burning with digital fury. With no hesitation, they consumed the capsules. Their pupils flared crimson, vessels glowing as energy surged wildly through their system. Fueled by that unstable boost, the leader condensed a droplet of water, now charged like a compressed missile, and fired it with a force that could slice mountain. Yet the shot froze midair, suspended and neutralized by an unseen algorithmic wall. What? Why won't it break through? He roared, rage overtaking logic. Realization struck his life force trade was futile. Allies tried to strike, but the 10-meter radius dissolved every attempt. Dosun pressed his palm against the barrier. Boss, this might be the barrier kernel, but it's evolved. The leader, trembling with fury, consumed another full vial. Power spiked, his form distorted. Ha ha ha! Even this won't stop me! And then, in a final surge beyond limit, his body overloaded and disassembled. Is this conversation helpful so far? Blood mist hung in the air like shattered code, fragments of energy dissolving into sparks as the last echoes of the new Fishman pirate's ambition were erased. Boss Hody's been nullified! Someone shouted, but it was too late. Alex lowered his leg, eyes half-lidded, exhaling like a god bored with mortals. With that single motion, the rebellion fractured like unstable data, and with a mere snap, his vectors twisted reality, dismantling their forms into dust and silence. The other Shi's crew, their alias stood untouched, unfazed, as if this level of power was just another ripple in Alex's boundless archive. Around them, the citizens of Fishman Island quaked, stunned by the presence of the one whispered about for rewriting fate and erasing Heavenly Tyrant. Unlike other battles where strength had meaning, this one shattered comprehension, a casual gesture becoming a world-altering command. Then came the shift. A massive silhouette approached, bubble-born and regal. Luffy's stare. Neptune's mind raced as icy dread crept into his thoughts. Alex, the man standing before him, wasn't just strong, he was potentially beyond Admiral class, and the rumors of his clash with Aokiji whispered of impossible victories. Fearing the worst, Neptune envisioned not one, but several admirals descending upon Fishman Island, bringing with them the threat of total annihilation. Weighing duty against survival, Neptune stepped forward, his voice measured and diplomatic, warning Alex of an ominous ice mountain, presumably Aokiji's arrival, and urging him to leave immediately. But as the Straw Hats exchanged amused glances, Bonnie stepped forth, revealing the shocking truth. The ice was her doing. Neptune's doubt was immediate. Bonnie wasn't known for ice powers, nor was her devil fruit aligned with such feats. Neptune and the entire Fishman Island stood frozen, jaws dropped and eyes wide, as if the very laws of their world had just shattered. Every soul who'd braved the Grand Line knew the golden rule. Consume more than one devil fruit, and your body self-destructs from the inside out. Yet here stood Bonnie, wielding multiple powers like extensions of her own will, her aura bursting with amplified force. All eyes snapped to Alex. Bonnie's words made one thing crystal clear: he was the catalyst. Neptune's voice trembled. "Mr. Alex, what's going on?" With a calm grin, Alex replied, "Devil fruits aren't absolute. Once you understand their architecture, correct the failures, you can wield many. You can even create your own." Silence. Minds cracked under the weight of his revelation. Not even the most legendary scientist had reached this echelon. Had he truly unraveled the code of devil fruits? As realization dawned, a single truth echoed in every mind. If this truth got out, Alex's name would shatter every bounty record. But questions lingered. How had Bonnie's body reached such towering strength? In the next chapter, as war looms, one truth stands firm. Devil fruit powers matter, but without raw physical might and hockey, they're nothing. Shanks proved it. Bonnie's icy mountain was more Ash and icy. Bonnie tilted her head, pride gleaming in her eyes. "It's nothing major," she said coolly. "Lord Alex just tuned up my strength. This is barely scratching the surface." Then, with a sly smirk, she pointed at the long-nosed guy nearby. That dude, boosted by Alex too. He trashed an admiral like it was training day. The crowd snapped their heads toward him, jaws dropping. The guy just grinned, owning the title despite the jab because, yeah, he did it. He was the only one in his crew to beat an admiral, something even their strongest hadn't pulled off. Suddenly, everyone looked at Alex like he wasn't just a legend, he was the path to power. Whispers turned to outcries as folks from all over the island clamored for his attention, pitching their loyalty, their charm, even their hearts. A few too bold, like the married mermaid tossing herself at Alex, while her man just stood there, swallowed by her audacity. Amused, Alex took mental notes. This wasn't just flattery, it was momentum. He'd already planned to anchor the island in his private realm, and maybe, just maybe, this mermaid would fit nicely in his curated circle. But, as the frenzy peaked and order unraveled, the island's ruler stepped in, voice sharp with authority, demanding silence and balance before things spiraled too far. With Neptune's voice like thunder cutting through the crowd, silence swept over the plaza in an instant. The once riotous sea folk dared not flinch. A beat passed, then Neptune turned with solemn grace to Alex. "Will you honor Ryugu Palace with your presence? A feast awaits Sir Ocean's best." Before Alex could answer, Luffy's appetite leapt ahead of him, shouting his agreement with boyish glee. That hunger stirred something light in Alex's core. He gave a nod and a smile. Soon, they ascended on whale-shaped carriers clad in shimmering bubbles, rising through a surreal skyline dotted with floating coral homes. As they neared the palace's steel ring, Neptune triggered a hidden mechanism and entry corridor of pure bubble, extended like an invitation from the deep, handing out pink coral shards. Neptune explained their power tools to craft mobile air shells in the ever-submerged palace. One by one, the crew activated their coral, forming protective spheres. "So cool," Usopp gasped, entranced by the tech. Nami turned to Alex, who remained outside the bubble, her voice cutting through the moment. "Alex, come on, it's time." He turned, eyes reflective, and smiled. "No need. I don't require air to survive, even underwater," Alex replied calmly, his voice echoing with layered logic. Luffy, Chopper, and Usopp stood frozen, jaws slack. "That's incredible!" they shouted in awe. For Alex, survival had transcended biology eating, was taste simulation, breathing a forgotten reflex. With the hollow root rewriting chakra itself, existence bowed to his design. Even the crushing gravity of a black hole posed no threat. As the group stepped through the Golden Gate in a Ryugu Palace, the scale-warped perception halls built for titans, walls etched with shimmering data runes. Guards saluted, shouting a unified, "Welcome home, Your Majesty!" The palace gleamed with opulence, its aura overwhelming. Nami's eyes sparkled, and even Luffy laughed in wonder. "This castle is amazing!" he shouted. Neptune grinned, arms crossed with pride. "This is my castle. Relax and enjoy." Then came a new Presentatal figure with golden hair and curious eyes. His gaze scanned the crew but paused on Alex, as if analyzing code too complex to decipher. Neptune chuckled, scratching his head. "Ah, let me introduce. This is Marco, guest of the palace, and intrigued by your presence." "I'm so scared." But fear couldn't stall what was coming. Usopp's words, once brushed off, struck a nerve when King Neptune stepped forward, his voice firm yet shaken, now believed. What he saw from the reborn Bonnie shattered doubt. Alex's power was real. Marco, once skeptical, felt the weight of truth crack his composure. This wasn't just potential, this was a living force capable of rewriting power itself. Alex wasn't a warrior, he was a variable, a wild card. If he could elevate someone to Admiral tier strength, if he could bend the rules of the world's energy code, then the sea itself would shift. Marco's thoughts raced this might be their edge. The key to surviving the impossible mission to reclaim Ace. But no ties, no favors owed, why would Alex help? Even so, Marco gambled. He asked. And to everyone's shock, Alex agreed calm, absolute. Not only would he assist, he offered to restore Whitebeard himself, but with a price. One no one yet understood. "I'm so scared." The fear in Usopp's voice echoed through the tense air. But Marco's cold indifference only fueled the tension until King Neptune broke the silence, revealing a truth he could no longer deny. Alex's power was real. After witnessing Bonnie's transformation, Neptune had no doubt. Reality bent around Alex, and Marco felt it too. Could this man truly uplift others to Admiral tier strength? The possibility was staggering. The world government's obsession with him now made perfect sense. If Alex held such might, he could rewrite the very tides of war. Marco's mind raced. Could this enigma of a man turn the tide at Marineford? Was there a chance to save Ace with fewer sacrifices? He hesitated. There was no bond, no history, only a desperate hope. And yet, he asked. Alex didn't flinch. "I'll help," he said, calm as still water. "I'll rescue Ace and heal Whitebeard. But what will you give me in return?" Marco froze. This was beyond what he dared imagine. "Do you like this personality?" Marco's voice cracked with desperate hope. You can really heal him?" Whitebeard's strength held their crew together. Without him, everything would fall. Alex's reply was calm, almost indifferent. "Yes, but what's it worth to you?" Marco hesitated only for a moment before making the call. "Anything. Name it, devil fruits, money, territory, it's yours." A nod from Alex sealed the deal. "Then bring me all the devil fruits you can gather." Marco didn't flinch. "Done. Save him, and we'll give you everything." But the tension didn't end there. Luffy had overheard and his world shook. "Ace is captured and they're going to execute him? I'm coming with you." His fire burned bright, but Marco saw the storm ahead. "This isn't a scufflights, a war between titans. You're not ready." But Luffy's eyes held firm. "He's my brother. Ready or not, I'm going. I'm going to be the Pirate King." Luffy shouted with fire in his eyes, the crew rallying behind him like a storm brewing at sea. "That's right!" They barked in unison, hearts pounding. "Luffy's going to be the Pirate King, then underestimate him." Marco's gaze lingered, haunted by echoes of a distant past, before he finally nodded. All right, you can come but stay out of the central battle. That war zone won't forgive hesitation. The crew fell into grim silence, the weight of reality pressing in after their bruising clash with the pacifista. Yet Luffy, stubborn as a tempest, crossed his arms and declared, "No, I'm going to save him." Marco's expression darkened. "This isn't a game, kid. It's war. Even I can't promise survival in that vortex. If you vanish, even success won't bring peace." Luffy faltered, the air thick with doubt, until Alex stepped forward, a smirk breaking the tension. "I'll strengthen him. If he's going in with power." In that instant, Alex foresaw it all. Luffy tearing through Marineford like a force of nature, Zoro clashing with the world's strongest, and carving open the sky, the tides of fate rewritten. The Marines wouldn't know what hit them. The Straw Hats, emboldened by that vision, straightened their backs. The storm was coming, and this time, it had a name. Before words could form, a sharp whistle tore through the air. A colossal axe split the sea, embedding itself deep in a distant cliff. Robin's sharp gaze narrowed. Why target this island? Neptune's tone turned grim. It was the work of a madman cursed with the Mark power, a twisted ability that locked any thrown object onto a chosen target. For a decade, his daughter had endured a relentless storm of weapons from the shadows. They could never find him. He haunted the deep like a ghost. The island had no one strong enough to silence him. Fury surged in the crew, and Alex's expression turned colder. This rogue wasn't just a nuisance. He was a flaw in the system Alex was about to fold into his pocket universe. With a silent gesture, space rippled, a portal snapped open, revealing a decrepit ship and a startled figure within. Recognition flashed, then panic. The villain turned to flee. Neptune roared, but before orders could be carried out, Alex raised a single finger. At its tip, energy began to gather, dark and dense, humming with finality. Before anyone could respond, a piercing whistle shattered. The Stillness Sand axe hurled through seawater like a missile, embedding itself deep in the island's edge. Robin narrowed her eyes, instincts flaring. Why attack here? Neptune's voice grew heavy. That was from one marked by the mark Fruth's throws always strike their tag target. His tone turned grim as he revealed a decade-long torment. Weapons endlessly launched at his daughter from the depths. The assailant impossible to trace. The ocean, vast and merciless, had hidden the culprit too well. Fury sparked in the crew's eyes. Alex, standing at the threshold of dimensional command, saw the nuisance for what it was, a fracture in the balance. With one effortless gesture, he opened a shimmering portal, revealing a rotting ship and a startled creature with 4 legs and a yellow hat. Recognition bloomed into panic. The fugitive turned and ran. Neptune shouted, "That's the one!" But before his guards could move, Alex lifted a finger. At its tip, a compact sphere of violet light began to swirl, dense, focused, silent judgment made manifest. In a flash, the sphere vanished, slicing a vacuum through the ocean depths and ending Vanderdecken's escape in a single, devastating strike that dissolved him into flickering particles. Neptune gasped, awestruck, while even Marco stood frozen until Alex, calm as ever, brushed it off like a simple parlor trick, casually likening it to portal-based abilities. But beneath the surface, the truth rippled. To strike a moving target from hundreds of kilometers away, Alex had clearly mastered observation to a level far beyond any shinobi comprehension. More baffling still, he manipulated his powers underwater, immune to the natural laws that once bound all who carried the energy curse. When pressed, he revealed the impossible. He had rewritten the system. No more limits, no more weaknesses. The very rules of chakra reborn under his command. Marco reeled, realizing the magnitude of what he'd underestimated. With the menace erased, a decade-long shadow lifted from the kingdom. Neptune, humbled and grateful, pledged eternal alliance. And as word reached the secluded tower, the doors opened at last. She stepped into the light, a figure of ethereal grace, serene yet hauntingly powerful. No longer a caged treasure, but a symbol of freedom reclaimed. The moment Shirahoshi appeared, Sanji couldn't handle. Ethy's heart rate exploded, and he crumpled with a geyser of blood shooting from his nose. Chopper panicked, trying to stabilize him before it got worse. King Neptune stepped in, introducing his daughter and urging her to thank her savior. With shy steps and grateful eyes, Shirahoshi bowed to Alex, her voice soft like ocean mist. Alex just chuckled, brushing his nose and replying coolly that he was simply doing his duty. Fishman Island was under his protection now. Watching from the side, Marco couldn't help but marvel, thinking not even their old commander could have cornered Vanderdecken in these depths. A feast lit the night with joy, and even Alex relaxed into the warmth. Soon, more Whitebeard pirates arrived, preparing their ships for a mission that would shake the seas, rescuing Fire Fist. The Straw Hats jumped in, the spirit of brotherhood fueling every move. Meanwhile, Alex showed Shirahoshi the world beyond the currents, portals opening to reveal the planet's hidden wonders. Her eyes gleamed brighter with each step beside him, admiration growing like a tide. But Alex didn't rest. They answered the call of the Whitebeard crew, restoring their leader to his peak. Back on the island, he carved glowing runes deep into its roots and the sunlight tree Eve, laying the foundation for a future only he could foresee. Alex moved with calculated precision, stabilizing the Twin Realms Fishman Island, and the tree ever required more than raw power. His inscribed runes hummed softly, sinking both energies into his pocket realm without damage. Inside, the world tree fed on divine artifacts, accelerating his energy intake. His fusion rate climbed steadily, 67%, then 70%, as skill after skill evolved. The Abyssal Tree reached level 3, unlocking phase-dominant chi strikes, now bypassed defensive constructs entirely. With new control over unknown wings, he could even grant limited phase gifts to others. As he trained, a Den call from Marco shattered the calm. The final trial at Marineford was approaching. But Alex, ever strategic, suggested a different route. Why not bypass the battlefield and go straight to the prison? Luffy's eyes lit up. The race to reshape fate had just begun. I'll break Ace out before they can erase him. Luffy's voice cut through the tension like a blade of willpower. No one from the crew spoke against it, not even Chopper or Nami, who usually thought things through. If Luffy's going, Nami grinned, lightning. With a confident grin, Alex faced the wide-eyed crew and declared, Impel Down's too dull. I'd rather drift toward Marineford, savoring each ripple in the tide. That's just who I am. Usopp's earlier boldness cracked. He'd relied on Alex's might to carry them through, and now uncertainty crept in. But the memory of bonds forged in fire and storms reignited his resolve. Gritting his teeth, he roared, I'm going in! And leapt through the portal, unwilling to let hesitation win. One by one, the crew followed, tossing a final wave. See you later, Alex. Wish us luck. Alex only smiled, letting their misunderstanding hang in the air as the portal vanished. In the stillness that followed, Shirahoshi finally spoke. Do you think they'll be okay? Alex, rubbing his chin, replied calmly, They'll evolve. That's all they need. Moved by his calm, Shirahoshi hesitated, then asked, Can I come with you? Her hopeful eyes cracked his usual reserve. Of course, he answered, opening a shimmering portal. This will always lend. With a gesture, Alex summoned a vessel of impossible grandeur, 300 meters long, 5 decks high, run with self-healing glyphs and storm-nullifying arrays. It was a palace upon waves, a myth forged into steel and chakra-threaded wood, carving calmly through chaos where others would sink. To Alex, mastery meant indulgence. To deny desire was to wither. As the ship neared the Allied fleet, its scale eclipsed even the legends beside it. Gasps erupted. This was no mere ship, it was a declaration. Eyes widened, voices trembled, even the great warlord himself fell silent. Is that really his? Came the uncertain whisper. But confirmation followed. There he was, silver-haired and calm, sipping wine like the world was already his. Tales of nullified leaders, captured tyrants, and unstoppable strength now seemed like echoes of something larger. A being whose bounty surpassed all, not just for power, but for the dangerous truths he embodied. When it was revealed that he could rewrite the very essence of chakra, awaken new forms, and forge strength equal to God's, doubt dissolved into awe. And as the old Titan stepped aboard Alex's creation, breaking every unspoken rule of command, his laughter thundered across the sea. With a thunderous laugh that could rattle mountains, the old Titan dropped down onto the deck, but the chairs, too tiny for his monumental frame, didn't stand a chance. In a flicker of thought, Alex summoned divine vines from the ship's surface, weaving them midair into a throne fit for giants. Red wine in hand, his voice calm as the sea breeze, he offered, Guests don't sit on the floor. Take a seat, old man. Intrigued, the towering figure sank into the living throne. Is this one of your tricks, he asked. Call it the Mori Mori no Mi, Alex replied coolly, though deep down, it was far more power drawn from the world tree itself. As the waves whispered around them, the elder warrior stared at the evolving ship and muttered, You've bypassed the fruit's limits. Even seawater and sea stow. On the freshly forged deck of a ship that defied logic, Whitebeard's laughter rumbled like thunder, his massive frame towering as he marveled at Alex's creation. But when no seat suited him, Alex merely sipped his crimson wine, and, with a flicker of will, vines erupted and coiled, forming a throne fit for a titan. Guests don't sit on the floor, Alex said coolly. As Whitebeard lowered himself into the living chair, curiosity sparked in his eyes. Is this another trick of yours? Alex nodded, half-truth dancing on his tongue. Think of it as the Mori Mori no Mi, the TRW. Gururara, this ship is incredible! Whitebeard's booming laugh echoed across the waves as his crew stood awestruck. This vessel wasn't just a ship, it was a declaration of war. One by one, Allied pirate crews arrived. their sails swelling with purpose, until a massive armada loomed behind the Whitebeard pirates, ready to crash into Marineford like a tidal wave of resolve. Word spread fast. Those who glimpsed the fleet steered clear, knowing this force was no ordinary band of rebels. With 3 days until the scheduled execution, the sea buzzed with tension, but not for Alex. He wasn't here to build ships for fame or fortune. He simply respected Whitebeard enough to gift him the new Moby Dick on a whim. As swarms of pirates begged for custom ships, Alex remained unmoved, swatting them into the sea like fly shiz, effortless power, a chilling reminder of his strength. Even Marco's healing couldn't mask the sheer force Alex unleashed in a single swing. After that, no one questioned him again. Young or not, he was now a living legend in their eyes, but their praise meant nothing to him. The Grand Line's chaos was a welcome contrast to the static seas of his origin, and riding that wave was far more thrilling. Beside him, Shirahoshi's wide-eyed wonder captured the heart of the world she'd never known, but duty called. As M, back at Marineford, tension wrapped the battlefield like a coiled serpent as the clock ticked toward execution. Ace was led to the platform, and with thunderous intent, the fleet admiral addressed the world, demanding the truth behind the prisoner's bloodline. Ace's voice rang out, defiant and bold, claiming a father forged by fire and loyalty, but the admiral shattered that illusion, unveiling a truth buried in time. The flames within Ace were kindled by none other than the Pirate King himself. The revelation struck like a shockwave, rippling across every corner of the world. But before the impact could settle, alarms rang out, the gate of justice moved without command, the engine room fell silent, and from the mist, an armada emerged. Vessels bound by nature's wrath and beauty surged forward, led by the colossal figure whose presence warped the very air. With a laugh that shook the heavens, he greeted his rival, asking only of his son's safety. Silence fell, dread spread, and the strongest man alive stood tall against the weight of a world ready to collapse. Then, without warning, another shadow stepped through the storm. With silver hair streaked in emerald light and eyes burning with fractal halos, the man who reshaped chakra itself emerged, Alex Locke, the dimensional sovereign. The moment he arrived, reality trembled. Marineford dimmed, not from clouds, but from the presence of a being who no longer obeyed a single plane of logic. The air thickened as Kizaru's casual smirk faltered, his voice slipping into uncertainty. Meanwhile, pirate ships roared forward like primal memories awakened, their decks buzzing with chaos and excitement. On one, a warrior from Wano hailed Alex under the sun, but his response was a ripple in time. One step, and he vanished. A blink later, he stood beside Whitebeard on Moby Dick. One, the two titans overlooking the vast battlefield. The war to reshape destiny had begun. Alex's arrival fractured expectations. The Marines wavered. The pirates ignited. This wasn't just a fight to save one life, it was the threshold of an era rewritten by chakra code, tree-born logic, and a sovereign who had already rewritten fate itself. At the heart of the collapsing shinobi world, Alex Locke, now more than a traveler, less than a golden leash, is the hollow root, rewriting chakra like a cosmic coder. As reality trembles and the Valley of the End groans with ancient code, he confronts forgotten echoes, shapes a new logic beneath the mist of war, and challenges the blueprint of existence itself. When the hidden mist attacks, he fractures time with the Mirror Gate. When Orochimaru tempts him, he answers with a pact of regeneration. Twin chakra trees, Rizion, born of logic, the other of emotion mutating the new generation into something beyond shinobi. But evolution has a cost, and the Council of Realms warns of collapse. Inside a psychic trial hosted by the Sage of Six Paths, Alex deciphers the final seal and with 97% fusion, births the Tree of Origin core, a seed not of rebirth, but of new creation. In that moment, style becomes strength, thought becomes weapon, and Alex stands platinum, hair aglow, glyphs swirling to declare a future not of battles, but of rewritten fate. As the air thickened with anticipation, no one could grasp what Alex truly meant. Without a word, he triggered Third Tree. Abyss and explosion of infinite power tore through the silence. The world rippled. His strength surged beyond comprehension, amplified 50-fold into something mythic. Reality cracked open as unlimited void bloomed, stretching over the entire domain like a digital stormfront. Glyphs danced in the air, crafting new laws into existence. Style became law. Beauty, grace, and impact translated into raw force. In an instant, the rule's change power flowed not by training or rank, but by aesthetic resonance. Alex's mind spun at hyperspeed, rewriting the fabric of existence with each thought. Hancock gasped, her hands trembling with unfamiliar strength. Elegance had become might. Across the battlefield, every warrior felt the shifts emboldened, others diminished. Even the top dogs weren't immune. With a slight bow and a wry smile, Alex simply said, "Let the show begin." The world would never be the same. As the battlefield crackled with tension, the Marine's eyes snapped toward Alex, not Whitebeard, realizing the seismic disturbance came from him. Amid the stunned silence, the Admiral with a stern face rose, his observation haki probing his own frame. What he found shattered his limits. A sudden surge of power, a spike no training had ever granted. But instead of triumph, dread crept into his bones. If Alex could rewrite the strength of an admiral, then none were Sapphonot, even the elite. With heavy steps and a voice like volcanic stone, he demanded answers. Alex answered with a smirk, voice dancing like firelight. I just poured more energy into the storm, you decide if it burns or cleanses. The ripple spread. Pirates once whispering tales now believed them, eyes widening as they weighed this being against legends. Even beside a towering figure of raw power, Alex stood unshaken, his aura twisting space itself. Soldiers gaped, words failing. What kind of force touches tens of thousands at once? Was this truly a man, or something rewritten? And just then, the shrill ring of a Denden Mushi broke the silence, racing up the platform to catch a world tilting off its axis. Do you like this personality? With trembling hands and wide eyes, the officer burst into the command hall, thrusting the report toward Sengoku. Fleet Admiral! It's catastrophic! Alex's ability isn't confined to Marineford anymore. It's reshaping the entire planet. From the Grand Line to the Red Line, beauty-infused power surged across the globe. Vegapunk's simulation showed a maximum amplification of threefold strength. Sengoku's face tensed as the Denden Mushi transformed into the solemn image of one of the five elders. At all costs, Alex must be neutralized. He now surpasses every known threat. In the sun-drenched halls of Mary Joyce, the Gorosei sat cloaked in shadow, watching the projection of Alex beside Whitebeard. His presence had eclipsed the Revolutionary Army, disrupting balance at a scale unseen. Even the unseen ruler stirred. Silence thickened like storm clouds until one word cracked through. Erase him. At Marineford, Whitebeard narrowed his gaze. He felt the surge of boundless energy. Turning to Alex, he said with quiet gravity, that power, it changes everything. But now isn't the time. Stand back. The war begins. Then he stepped forward, his aura shaking the battlefield as thousands of Marines braced for the storm. Is this conversation helpful so far? Gura-ra-ra! Hold on, Ace. I'm coming. Muscles coiled like steel cables. The Titan crossed his arms, then unleashed a seismic burst. With a thunderous swing his fists, didn't strike flesh, but the very air cracked like shattered crystal. Tremors rippled outward, splitting the sea in two as twin spheres of ocean rose like titanic guardians. But something had changed. His strength surged, magnified beyond belief. A silent nod from Alex triggered a cascade of style points, and Whitebeard roared with laughter, veins bulging as the waves reached impossible heights. With one final motion, he redirected the towering columns into apocalyptic tsunamis barreling toward Marineford, darkening the sky and paralyzing an army of 100,000. Fear swept through the ranks like wildfire, even freezing legends in their tracks as they realized the truth. This wasn't just strength, it was the will of a world-shaking force made manifest. His illness erased, his presence surged like a living glitch in the world's chakra code. With each movement, waves of seismic energy crashed outward once, beyond reach in his prime, now wielded with terrifying style. Vice Admiral Tsuru, observing with calm detachment, sighed, acknowledging the truth. His flashy abilities, amplified by high style points, had rewritten the rules. Garp, grounded in brute strength and low flare, fumed, suspecting deliberate sabotage. His efforts barely scratched the boosted scales. As oceans twisted into towers of water, Aokiji shed his nonchalance. Launching skyward, he invoked a majestic freeze. Ice Age! Halting the tide with colossal ice barriers. But it didn't end there. With a cold gleam and elevated style resonance, he countered again, Ice Spear. Yet Whitebeard shattered it all with a single quake fist, obliterating form and force alike. Reassembling from frozen shards, Akiji froze the sea itself, locking the fleet in a glacial grip. The battlefield had become a clash of style-augmented legends, where aesthetics governed might and every action rewrote reality. The sea froze into a glittering bridge of fate, as cannon fire screamed across the sky pirates, and Marines clashed head-on in a storm of chaos and willpower, where every heartbeat echoed with fire and steel. The ice cracked beneath a monstrous slash as the world's sharpest blade cleaved toward Moby Dick. One, splitting solid terrain like silkenly Diamond Jozu dared intercept, his crystalline form shimmering like a fortress. But this wasn't the same battlefield anymore. Not with Mihawk's style-forged precision tearing through brute defense like paper, leaving Jozu staggering and bloodied. And then came the second strike. More focused, more refined, aimed to erase the ship itself until Alex appeared, calm and unshaken, his figure a sudden rupture in time, hand raised not in panic but purpose. freezing the incoming blade midair as if the laws of motion bowed to him alone. The war paused, eyes wide, breaths held, for this was no longer a fight between factions, but between ideas. Elegant logic versus raw power, stillness versus fury, and at the heart of it all, Alex stood untouched an evolving variable the old world couldn't compute. As Whitebeard narrowed his eyes, sensing an anomaly with his advanced perception, he realized this wasn't a simple energy barrier, it was something far more arcane. The slash hadn't stopped, it just couldn't reach its target. Space itself had stretched like elastic between Alex and the attack, locking it midair. Akainu's voice dropped to a growl, baffled by the phenomenon. But those attuned to high-level perception understood instantly. Alex's limitless technique rendered brute force obsolete, unless it bent the very laws of space or concept. With a casual gesture, Alex shattered the incoming slash using pure directional vectors. He smirked, reminding his opponent that actions against a neutral party carried consequences. Then, channeling vector forces through two raised fingers, he unleashed a wave that split the frozen battleground wide open, exposing the sea far below. Even hardened warriors scrambled to evade, stunned by the effortless devastation. Mihawk responded with his finest technique, the clash erupting in a shockwave that split sky and sea alike. When the dust cleared, blood scattered, and Mihawk's form was hurled aside, his legendary skill undone, not by power, but by control. Alex had held back, not out of mercy, but to prolong the spectacle of the evolving battlefield. Mihawk crashed into the dockside wall with a force that shattered stone, the impact carving a crater as cracks webbed outward before the entire structure gave way. Yet before the ruin collapsed, he burst, free-bloodied, but unbroken, his hawk-like eyes gleaming with cold resolve. Muscles tightened over his wound, halting the flow. He had mastered life return, manipulating his body like a machine, a feast and some time, and he'd be back in full form. Navy troops on the frozen battlefield stared, stricken by fear. If even Mihawk fell in one hit, what chance do we have? Despair spread like wildfire as Alex casually stepped away toward the Moby Dick one, leaving Mihawk behind. Sensing no follow-up strike, the Navy steadied themselves, bracing for the pirates' charge. High above, Kizaru, now light incarnate, aimed solely at Whitebeard. He'd learned his lesson. Whitebeard chuckled at the attention. I'm the easy target now? But his amusement vanished as Marco, wreathed in cerulean flames, intercepted Kizaru's beams and kicked him skyward with blinding speed. Elsewhere, Jozu, healed by Marco, hurled a colossal ice slab toward Marineford, only for Akainu to erupt in flame, countering with a barrage of molten fury that blanketed the sky in firestorm. Ships crumbled, chaos reigned. Amid the inferno, White Bee, as the mist thins over the Valley of the End, a ripple in space hums like a breathing code. Alex Locke steps forward, not as a mere shinobi, but as the sovereign of dimensional logic. Hollow root pulses beneath his feet, rewriting the ancient script of chakra. The clans feel it, something primal and new is blooming. Chakra, once just energy, now speaks in evolving branches. One of emotion, one of precision. From beneath the earth, a buried tree code whispers the origin of it all. Alex touches the spiral, fusing 97% with the template, birthing the Tree of Origin core. Through Mirror Gate, he reflects futures, reshaping fates without lifting a blade. The world teeters between transcendence and collapse as young warriors awaken with seeds not meant for this era. When the Council of Realms arrives, warning of destruction by too rapid evolution, Alex enters the mind world of the sage himself. 5 seals, 5 truths, 1 verdict. He chooses rebirth over stagnation. As chakra uncoils into conscious code once more, the shinobi world prepares for its next genesis. Do you like this personality? Just how amusing. The smirk vanished from the tyrant's face the moment he turned and saw the platinum-haired sovereign standing behind him, Alex Locke, wrapped in logic flame and fractal gaze. A weight-like system failure crushed the warlord's chest. Every strand of his chakra quivered under Alex's overwhelming signal field. The man who once bent nations with threads now faced something far beyond string or steel. Trying to mask his fear, he forced calm into his voice. We've no quarrel. Why me? But before the words even settled, a cannon burst illuminated the air shrapnel froze in orbit around Alex, denied by his presence alone. In that still glow, Alex offered a smile that chilled the very code of reality. No reason. You just irritate the system. That reply shattered the warlord's pride more than any blast. He wasn't a threat. He was noise. A bug in the grand rewrite. Still clinging to hierarchy, the tyrant listed his status, his power, his alliance shaping. Those names held weight. But Alex didn't operate on politics. He operated on pattern stability. The moment he spoke, the world bent to listen. And no alliance, no lineage, no title could overwrite that authority. They had faced monsters, gods, and fables, but none of it prepared them for Alex. The moment he stepped forward, silence sliced through the air like a dimensional blade. Even those who feared nothing took an instinctive step back. Only one remained unmoved, his emotions long since severed. Eyes locked, fear trembled behind stoic masks as Alex approached with the calm certainty of someone who could rewrite the laws of reality. One unfortunate soul felt that gaze like a glitch in his core of his logic, collapsing as panic replaced pride. He stammered a question, desperate for rationale, but Alex answered with silence and an open palm. A blast surged not fire, not wind, but the coded vector storm of pure disassembly. When it was over, only a crater remained. No reason, you just annoy me, Alex said, as if adjusting syntax. Around the world, the moment echoed a live broadcast anomaly etched into the data stream of history. Viewers didn't cheer, they recalibrated their perception. Two top-level entities nullified, one dissolved completely, the other barely holding on to form. Analysts saw a pattern, one more terrifying than any technique. Alex never struggled. He moved like a sovereign editor through unstable code, and when he turned, eyes scanning what remained, the message was clear. This world was running outdated logic. He would rewrite ITER, erase it, trying. The warlords had mocked power before, but not this time. As Alex approached, the air itself thickened, and even the most hardened among them faltered. The only one unmoved was the silent machine who had long discarded fear. The rest instinctively stepped back, each gaze haunted by the thought, who's next? Among them, one figure stiffened his instincts, screamed that Alex's eyes were locked on him. There was no escape. He stammered a greeting, forcing a trembling smile, but Alex didn't answer. A single palm rose, laced with countless energy vectors, and in a flash, that warlord was gone as form, reduced to particles, the earth beneath scorched into a crater. The reason? You just annoy me, Alex said coldly. Two titans down, one barely holding on, and the world watched shocked. Breathless as Alex rewrote the order of power itself. Analysts whispered the same chilling thought. He's not even trying. Somewhere between mystic precision and boundless force, Alex moved like a god unchallenged. As he turned to the others, his gaze landed on one calm, calculating, and for a moment, even the fiercest warriors remembered what fear truly felt like. Her presence could have shattered empires. But to Alex, it was noise. Hancock unleashed a flurry of blazing heart-shaped projectiles, her power amplified by a style boost that let each shot rival an admiral's might. "Disgusting man, look away!" she snarled, assuming Alex was just another fool bewitched by beauty. But he wasn't. Her charm bounced harmlessly off his infinity, the arrows freezing in place like broken code. He stepped forward without hesitation, slicing through her illusion with cold logic. One strike swift, sharp cut through her pride more than her body. Blood marked the moment, disbelief in her eyes. "Think you're pretty? Pathetic," Alex muttered, a mirror of merciless calm. The old world seductions meant nothing now. Only will, only power, only truth. Another crisp impact echoed through the valley, leaving her cheeks radiantly flushed and perfectly symmetrical in unsettling harmony. Alex found visually satisfying. She trembled, shielding her face as confusion and fury clashed in her voice, demanding an answer. With a calm, almost disinterested grin, Alex replied, "No reason. You were simply irritating." As his hand rose once more, the fire in her eyes dimmed, replaced by raw caution. Those casual gestures carried enough latent force to shatter worlds. Inside, emotions, tangled resentment, fear, and something stranger still. She shifted slightly, stealing a wary glance at him, relieved his gaze had turned upward. Then, the sky cracked open with sound-massive vessels descended in a storm of energy and urgency. Among the chaos, veterans of war, rebels of fate, and a familiar straw-hatted warrior calling out with renewed strength. This wasn't the timeline she remembered. This was the ripple of Alex's influence, his presence rewriting destinies mid-air. From Moonwalk to Gear 4th, their descent wasn't desperation, it was calculated chaos. And as the dust swirled, Luffy's voice rang clear with awe. "Alex, I'm here!" Luffy's eyes locked onto the execution platform as Alex pointed there he was. Ace. Bound, battered, but alive. With a firestorm in his chest, Luffy exploded forward, air cracking beneath his Gear 4th form. "Ace, I'm coming for you!" Ace, shackled by Seastone, looked up his instincts, screamed, and through observation, he saw it clearly. Luffy had surpassed him, but that only made the danger worse. "Go back, Luffy, you can't save me," he yelled, panic lacing his voice. But there was no stopping the storm. Suddenly, molten magma surged as a fist cloaked in infernal heat struck out Admiral Akainu had entered the frame. "Luffy, dodge it!" Ace shouted, terror in his throat. Below, Garp stood frozen. Grandfather and warrior, his soul split. His fists trembled, but he did nothing. Beside him, Suru's hand rested lightly on his shoulder. "It's not your fault," she whispered, as above them all, Akainu unleashed everything. He knew exactly who the boy was, descended from a rebel and a revolutionary, a bloodline that warped the fate of empires. Left unchecked, he'd evolve into a storm strong enough to fracture the balance of the world itself. That's why the order was clear. Neutralize the threat. A molten fist shot forward, reality bending around its heat, but the boy didn't budge. He stood with the will of a sovereign, his aura blazing with Alex's transcendent energy. Crimson armor of hardened intent wrapped his body as his fist coiled back with gravitational force. Gomu Gomu no. Kong Gun. The collision ignited a storm of chakra and magma, shaking the sky with a scarlet flash. Thrown across the field, he landed untouched. Silence dropped like a curtain. From behind the fire, a voice thundered in disbelief. How had this child risen so far, so fast? Not long ago, he was nothing against the elite. And no, he stood toe-to-toe with command itself. From the platform, his brother beamed with pride. But across the field, the Molten Warrior's gaze snapped toward the outsider at the edge. The one cloaked in Dimensional R, Luffy's eyes locked onto the execution platform as Alex pointed there he was. Ace. Bound, battered, but alive. With a firestorm in his chest, Luffy exploded forward, air cracking beneath his Gear 4th form. "Ace, I'm coming for you!" Ace, shackled by Seastone, looked up his instincts, screamed, and through observation, he saw it clearly. Luffy had surpassed him, but that only made the danger worse. "Go back, Luffy, you can't save me," he yelled, panic lacing his voice. But there was no stopping the storm. Suddenly, molten magma surged as a fist cloaked in infernal heat struck out Admiral Akainu had entered the frame. "Luffy, dodge it!" Ace shouted, terror in his throat. Below, Garp stood frozen. Grandfather and warrior, his soul split. His fists trembled, but he did nothing. Beside him, Suru's hand rested lightly on his shoulder. "It's not your fault," she whispered, as above them all, Akainu unleashed everything. Luffy's eyes locked onto the execution platform as Alex pointed there he was. Ace. Bound. Battered, but alive. With a firestorm in his chest, Luffy exploded forward, air cracking beneath his Gear 4th form. "Ace, I'm coming for you!" Ace, shackled by Seastone, looked up his instincts, screamed, and through observation, he saw it clearly. Luffy had surpassed him, but that only made the danger worse. "Go back, Luffy, you can't save me," he yelled, panic lacing his voice. But there was no stopping the storm. Suddenly, molten magma surged as a fist, cloaked in infernal heat, struck out Admiral Akainu had entered the frame. "Luffy, dodge it!" Ace shouted, terror in his throat. Below, Garp stood frozen. Grandfather and warrior, his soul split. His fist trembled, but he did nothing. Beside him, Tsuru's hand rested lightly on his shoulder. "It's not your fault," she whispered, as above them all, Akainu unleashed everything. The battlefield roared as Mihawk's blade clashed with Zoro's two titans, unleashing chakra-laced fury that tore the sky with every blow. While chaos surged across the war zone, eyes shifted toward the twin storms. One between Luffy and the blazing force of magma, the other between Zoro and the Blade Master himself. Yet the true anomaly was Alex, whose presence bent reality, walking undeterred through a maelstrom of Admiral-level strikes that halted midair and reversed like broken code. Even as war defined the horizon, Alex's path to the execution platform was serene, almost surreal, as if time and space obeyed his silent command. Kuma's assault turned back on him with algorithmic precision, and even a certain Empress was calmly sealed into stasis, her energy field collapsing into Alex's personal archive for future integration. Amid rising panic and awe, Marines realized they weren't watching a pirate, they were witnessing a sovereign editor of existence, rewriting the rules as casually as one might breathe. In a single blink, Alex Locke materialized beside the condemned figure, but before breath could settle, twin seismic blows tore through the air forces from two legends colliding toward him. Yet with nothing but two fingers raised, Alex stopped the chaos like pressing pause on existence itself. "Relax," he muttered, voice trailing with cosmic boredom. "I'm not here for rescue. I just want the front row seat to this drama." Suspicion twisted Sengoku's face as he lunged again, only for the strike to crumble, midair, infinity activated, untouchable, untamed. Garp hesitated, emotions clashing like tectonic plates inside him. And Alex? He summoned his throne and table from the pocket folds of his realm, wine glinting under invisible stars. "Why break the scene?" he said, eyes reflecting the world like code. "This is your peak spectacle." Sengoku demanded an answer. What world did Alex speak of? But silence was the only reply, filled only by the pouring of wine and the soft flick of logic waves around his aura. Finally, Alex turned to Garp. "Join me. With me here, the outcome's already rewritten. No more weight on your shoulders. Like Tsuru said, it's not your fault. Garp froze then, burst out laughing, a deep, thunderous sound echoing through the chaos. "Didn't think I'd get lectured by someone younger than my grandkids," he roared. "But you're right. With you here, this war's outcome isn't mine to decide anymore." The storm inside him finally calmed. In another timeline, his wavering might have tipped the scales, but with Alex looming like a living myth, even legends bent around him. As Garp and Sengoku sat down, Ace paused, then joined. There they were, Alex, Sengoku, Garp, and Ace sitting atop the execution platform mid-war, feasting on alien delicacies Alex summoned from a reality only he seemed to understand. Below, the battlefield burned with chaos, but above it all, peace, laughter, even clinking cups. Marines and pirates alike stared in disbelief. And far away, the five elders couldn't take it anymore. They called Sengoku, but when the Denden Mushi clicked, it wasn't him, it was Alex, calm, cosmic. "Stop talking, or I'll crush you all." The silence that followed was, what just happened? The gods of judgment, five supreme beings, cloaked in power and paranoia, sat shaken in their sacred chamber, the air trembling from what they had just felt. Ethan Barron's eyes were stormy. He knew the balance had shifted. Jupiter, fists trembling, spoke of the impossible presence so overwhelming it echoed through sound alone. Warcury exploded with rage, ripping ancient law to shreds, calling for the immediate nullification of this anomaly. Marcus Mars, torn beard in hand, coldly agreed. This wasn't just threat, it was evolution with intent. And Saturn? He struck the floor, a judgment made send in the machines, the weapons, the elemental trinity of admirals. A singular decision was forged, obliteration at all costs. But while they fortified themselves with ancient terror and overwhelming force, they failed to grasp one truth: Alex didn't see them as God. From his throne on the execution platform, he leaned back with casual grace, returned the call device without care, and gazed at the chaos below like one watching ants rearrange sand. The war raged, the tide, so they finally noticed how quaint. As the tide of the world churned in unseen layers, Alex Locke sat with a calm that defied chaos, casually crunching seashells beside a grizzled Garp, his gaze locked beyond their dimension. When the talk turned to strength, Alex's grin widened. Wasn't this the allure of a true sovereign of the seas? Still, in higher realms, he mused, such a being would rival a Skyfather, those who bend planets like playthings. Garp froze, mid-bite, stunned by the thought of power so vast it warped logic itself. Sengoku leaned in, suspicion thick in his voice, asking if Alex hailed from another world. With a smirk and a cola chug, Alex shrugged, sort of. You haven't grasped the multiverse yet. Silence followed as the trio processed his alien nature. Then, Garp broke it with a question laced with hope. Was Luffy's strength really from him? Alex chuckled, revealing that Luffy's power was always within. He merely accelerated it. By the time the final moment arrived, Luffy would transcend expectations, manifesting a form born from legend. The sun, God, Sen. A global broadcast? No way I'm missing out. The scene ignites on an icy battlefield as Buggy bellows his exaggerated claims to the world, only for the spotlight to shift when a shadow looms behind him. Mayhan lands on his shoulder, and boom! It's the world's most infamous outlaw, Alex. With a grin that could split dimensions, Alex hijacks the stream, confirming Buggy's wild boasts and throwing in some cosmic chaos of his own. He declares himself Buggy's subordinate, shouting to the world that this clown-faced captain just tanked a blow from the strongest swordsman alive and lived. Buggy panics, muffled and wide-eyed, as Alex cranks the madness to max. Buggy isn't just strong, he's the destined ruler, set to rewrite the seas, vaporize nations, and build a unified empire. The world watches in disbelief as Alex unveils hidden histories. Buggy and Shanks, once childhood partners, even legendary captains once acknowledged his power. And now, the seas will quake. From Yonko to World Throne, Alex swears allegiance to the one pirate nobody expected to rise. Buggy, whether he likes it or not, has become the symbol of revolution. Don't make us take you down the hard way. And to the forces clinging to their ancient empires, hear this. Under Captain Buggy's name, we shatter the chains of the old world and forge a new one in fire and steel. With a single commander race, the celestial Thronsa revolution ignites. Those ready to rewrite fate, step forth, join the Buggy Pirates and become part of a world-shaking uprising. And now, on behalf of our fearless figurehead, a global broadcast? No way, I'm missing out. The scene ignites on an icy battlefield as Buggy bellows his exaggerated claims to the world, only for the spotlight to shift when a shadow looms behind him, a hand lands on his shoulder, and boom! It's the world's most infamous outlaw, Alex. With a grin that could split dimensions, Alex hijacks the stream, confirming Buggy's wild boasts and throwing in some cosmic chaos of his own. he declares himself Buggy's subordinate, shouting to the world that this clown-faced captain just tanked a blow from the strongest swordsman alive and lived. Buggy panics, muffled and wide-eyed, as Alex cranks the madness to max. Buggy isn't just strong, he's the destined ruler, set to rewrite the seas, vaporize nations, and build a unified empire. The world watches in disbelief as Alex unveils hidden histories Buggy and Shanks, once childhood partners. Even legendary captains once acknowledged his power, and now the seas will quake. From Yonko to World Throne, Alex swears allegiance to the one pirate nobody expected to ride. Buggy, whether he likes it or not, has become the S after the war. Buggy's fate was sealed hunted like a phantom of destruction, his every breath shadowed by dread. But just as despair crushed him, Alex grinned with chaotic confidence, restraining Buggy with ease. You and Luffy, you're the twin stars destined to rewrite the order. Since he's Luffy's fanboy, I'm backing you, fully. That spark lit a fire in Buggy's chest. Pride pushed fear aside. Really? I'm that amazing? Alex nodded, hand glowing with cursed precision. The moment it touched Buggy's shoulder, his body surged with raw, awakened power. This is your true Formigly Emperor. Energy exploded. Buggy's fruit awakened. The world around him fractured into floating cubes as marines fell apart like puzzle pieces. With wild laughter splitting the sky, Buggy declared his reign. Not with elegancino, with glorious, chaotic might. Is this conversation helpful so far? Wyemble of revolution. This newfound invincibility only pumped his ego sky high. I'm the ugly emperor now, and I'll lead an uprising that shakes the whole world. Galdino, once full of sarcasm, stared wide-eyed, whispering in disbelief. No way! How did this actually happen? In the chaos, Alex vanished from Buggy's side and reappeared atop the execution platform. Sengoku, boiling with fury, demanded, "What are you planning?" But Alex just grinned, munching casually. Oh, nothing special, just spicing things up a bit. Sengoku trembled this newcomer had flipped the world order in mere weeks. And it wasn't over. Alex leaned in with a smirk. By the way, that plan to fracture Whitebeard's crew? It's toast. I brought him back to full strength. Just then, Squard's blade came crashing down, but the Whitebeard of old stood tall. With a flash of hockey, he caught the strike, pulled Squard close, and embraced him. No anger, just an overwhelming force of loyalty. That moment rewrote everything. Whitebeard unleashed power that shattered Marineford's frozen core, offering his fleet one choice: stay or go. Every last one stayed. And with that, the true titan of the seas leapt into battle once more. Do you like this personality? He leveled his naginata and thundered, "Charge, follow me into battle!" The pirates, electrified by Whitebeard's aura, surged forward as one, "For father, attack!" As they stormed Marineford's shore, a giant loomed. Vice Admiral John Giant, a living barricade, swatting foes aside like insects, but when he stood before Whitebeard, the sea itself held its breath. With one crushing blow, the Titan fell. Whitebeard, calm and absolute, raised a single finger piercing the air with silent fury. The world groaned. A cataclysm ripped through Marineford, splitting sea and stone, tilting the island like a sinking ship, annihilating all sense of balance. Yet, on the platform, amidst the chaos, Alex sat unfazed, sipping his coffee as if watching a storm he'd already predicted. He smiled and murmured, "Here we go. The war's reaching its peak." The moment of reckoning had arrived.